Thanks so much, Paul. We're gonna now invite Alex Malki and Johannes, who are the Web3 lead and AI team lead at VitaDAO, to tell us more about the DAO.
Oops. Can we go back? Oh. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's great to have you, and it's great to be hosting this event alongside Bio. So today I'm going to be talking about what we're building at VitaDAO. We're going to be sharing publicly for the first time our new AI roadmap and how we're planning to integrate AI across the entire organization. So before anything else, my name is Alex Malki. I am the Web3 co-lead and the Longevity Pod interim lead at VitaDAO. Cool. So first of all, taking a step back and think about why do we exist in the first place? What is VitaDAO and what we're trying to do, right? So we're essentially a global community on a mission to eradicate aging, right? So we are here for the mission of making death optional, really. And we are essentially united by this purpose. We have a community that is comprised of scientists, researchers, and funders. We pull them all together. We pull their talent and their capital together to deliver what we want to have, like equitable longevity breakthroughs. So yeah, how we're doing this? Essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create this new model for funding, advancing, and commercializing science. And we want to do it in an equitable, permissional, and democratic way. And what I mean by that is usually when people think about longevity interventions, they think about that only being accessible to high net worth individuals and all that. We want to make this accessible to the broader public, to the broader community, right? So VitaDAO created this model where essentially the community vets and funds longevity science research projects. It gets research IP in exchange. It monetizes this IP through the IP NFT and IPT framework that Paul just talked about, essentially spin-outs new biotech companies and sublicenses IP. If there's any proceeds being generated from this process, it all flows back to the treasury of the DAO that then reinvests that capital into further research. So our model has evolved over time. So VitaDAO has been around since 2021. It has deployed over 4.5 million across many different biotech companies and academic projects. And it has like a portfolio comprised of IP NFTs, IPTs, and equity. So you're going to hear from some of these projects later today. We do have the team from VitaRNA and VitaFast speaking in the afternoon. But what's important to highlight here is that we first started with almost being like a decentralized fund, investing in equity deals of biotech companies, right? So we built like a very credible portfolio of this company, some of which you can find here, and you might recognize some of the names. After that, we started implementing the IP NFT model, working alongside academic institutions at very credible universities. So it was really challenging to get to convince these academic institutions that are very traditional in nature to back this new model of funding science. But I think we did a very successful job. We invested in over 7 academic projects through the IP NFT framework. But then more recently, we further developed these IP NFTs into IPTs, which are essentially the fractionalization of the IP NFTs, so we can bring them to public markets, right? We can decentralize ownership governance over these IP tokens. So 2 examples of that are VitaRNA and VitaFast. Paul covered this in the last presentation, so I'm going to skip this through real quick. Essentially, what we do is we sign an SRA with a research project or a biotech company. In exchange for that, we get IP rights, and then we can essentially decentralize the governance of these IP rights to the IPT token holders, right? So IPT token holders essentially participate in governance of these IP rights. How do you want to use the IP? If there is any distribution proceeds, there is like governance linked to how you want to distribute those proceeds as well, and so on. So yeah, VitaRNA and VitaFast, as I mentioned, are two of our most successful stories, sorry. So VitaFast got funded in January 2022. It was a 285K investment from VitaDAO, and the current FMV, fair market value of the project is 4 million. And then VitaRNA received 91,000 funding from Vita in 2023. And then after the IPT launched, token started trading, and the FMV currently is like 6.2. So what we want to do now is replicate this, scale this model, right? So how can we scale this? But not only scale, we want to scale it in a way that is faster, better, and cheaper, right? So this is where AI comes in. So I don't think I need to convince anyone about the impacts that AI is already having in the world, specifically in the scientific, academic environment. These are just some examples of the impact that it is currently having. It is now reliably producing peer-reviewed publications. There is Google's AI co-scientists. There is demonstrating AI-generated hypothesis validation already, and so on, right? But it's not only ideas, right? So AI is also being used for execution of scientific research already. So what you see here is like 3 examples of how this is being used. In Silicon Medicine, for instance, they developed their first AI scientist humanoid to operate in their fully robotic lab. You're going to hear from Silicon later today, by the way, as well. We have the one in the middle is actually one of my favorites because it's like almost like a cloud lab that you can tap into. So essentially what you can do is you as an AI agent can essentially use the lab as an API call to develop your experiments. So they would do they would serve you as a wet lab via an API call, which is super cool. And at the end of the day, like what we want to do is we want to create this feedback loop where we have AI models coming up with hypotheses, running experiments on those hypotheses, generating data. And then based on that data, depending on how it goes, that data can essentially further feed other AI models to essentially reinforce and make the experiments more credible over time, right? So we want to create this this flywheel effect where we are improving our models over time. Cool. So essentially, like the long-term vision for us, I think, is to leverage AI to evolve VitaDAO into a fully autonomous and high-throughput organization. And what I mean by that is, I think the only way for us to create more of these assets, to really accelerate scientific discovery, is through the use of AI across the entire process, right? So again, from hypothesis generation to execution of science, we wanna be using AI across the org. Cool. So this is the roadmap that we have that we are working on until the end of the year. We're going to be talking about each one of them in more detail if I have time, but I'm going to fly through it. So Aubrey, we have Aubrey, like a project we're doing with Aubrey de Grey. We have our preprints journal that we're working on. We have Vita Terminal, Biohacker, and VitaLabs. But we're going to talk about them in more detail now.
Yeah, hi together. Agents is definitely the buzzword AI 25. And like, what is an agent actually? Like, for me personally, like a good way to think about it is like it's that AI system. I can give a task. I can go away for some time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a whole day. And it comes back and it has a result for me. So it produced some kind of output. Like the first agents we already see, for example, like you could consider deep research as an agent. You give it a task. Hey, please research that topic for me. It goes to the internet 15 minutes and comes back with a result. Yeah, so basically VitaDAO started with the very popular interview with Aubrey de Grey, the longevity researcher. And we thought like with that new strategy in mind, basically applying AI agents all over VitaDAO to do useful functions, we thought it would be amazing to have Aubrey AI, basically an AI that impersonates Aubrey de Grey with full permission, obviously, but having that digital Aubrey de Grey that you can ask 24/7 on demand your questions and it will answer precisely. and accurately. And yeah, so basically it's an AI trained on Aubrey's knowledge. It lives in the cloud. It can respond to events, for example, like it can do API calls, and like if new data emerges, it can take action, which is another really important characteristic of an agent. And yeah, so basically, like it's available for the Vita community. So they have now this Aubrey de Grey in the cloud that can answer their questions. Yeah, also we want to give it much more utility. Like it already, right now, today, it helps the RMR2 team to design their study. So they go to Aubrey AI and ask, like they're doing a huge mouse study. It's like the second study, they did one before, and now they're expanding on that first study. And like what was pretty amazing to see is that the team consults Aubrey AI how to design the study. Yeah, so we also basically, yeah, we want to potentially feed the results of the study back to Aubrey AI and share it with the community. So yeah, basically it lives the infrastructure, one or two words on the infrastructure. We're running ELIZA in the cloud, on Fala Cloud, and more expanding the capabilities by giving it access to ArchiveX and other data sources like PubMed, for example.
Cool. And yeah, we're doing this in partnership with Longevity Escape Velocity Foundation, which is Aubrey's core focus right now. And we're actually going to be hearing from Caitlin directly about the project that he's working on and we're helping him out with later today. Cool. I'm going to skip through this because I don't have time. So I just want to talk about one last thing that is really a focus for us, which is VitaLabs. And this is essentially our venture studio program where we're incubating like very early stage ideas with the goal of bringing them to markets through IPT spinouts, right? So this is like a roadmap for a season. So VitaLabs structured in seasons. The first one is ongoing. We have first like this ideation stage where people share their ideas, brainstorm, try to create teams around them, proposals, ideas for funding. Then the project receives funding from VitaDAO, starts running some initial experiments, goes into more in-depth research if the initial data package is good, go through that process, and then if the project is promising, we essentially crowdfund we launch an IPT for crowdfunding and decentralizing IP ownership, right? So the reason why I'm mentioning this is for season 2, which is probably going to happen at the second half of this year. We want to have AI agents creating their own hypotheses as well. Like, so we want to have AI essentially competing with humans in a way, at least from an ideation perspective. We want to have them sharing their ideas, and we want to have them competing for funding, essentially, right? Ideally in an anonymous way, so people are not biased against the AIs. But we'll see how it goes. And then if it is successful, we can essentially tap into these wet labs, cloud labs that I mentioned before, to execute the research through these CROs. And then if everything goes well, we decentralize ownership over the IP via this IPT spinouts. Cool, so super excited for this. This is really a focus for us, and thank you for having us.